What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we're going to be going through the Week 3 waiver wire report, going over every single guy that you need to check out on your waiver wire, depending on how deep your league is and where your needs are. We'll be going over each position, giving you guys some names you can check out if you are in need in your fantasy leagues. But hey, if you guys are looking for XFL fantasy and news content posted every single day, do me a favor and click that like and subscribe button. It helps me out a lot, and I continue to keep putting that content out for you guys. So if you like what you see, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Anyway, not going to waste any more time. Let's get started right now. Alright guys, so you know the drill by now. If you've been watching these waiver wire videos, you know the way that we do it. We go position by position and we break it down into tiers. Again, tier 1 is a player that is going to be pretty much a rest of season starter as long as their output continues to go. Tier 2 is a player that's definitely worth rostering and could potentially start right now, but a player that isn't at the top tier of their abilities just quite yet, someone that we'll keep an eye on as we go forward. And then tier 3 is a player that you just want to keep a tab on their name, not someone that we're really looking to start at this moment, but someone that could very quickly rise to prominence in fantasy. So definitely a name to stow on the back of your bench if you have a deep enough bench. All right, we'll start with quarterbacks now. No quarterback injuries to note to bring these guys up, but we'll kind of go over why we have some of these names here. So we have Marquise Williams as our number 1. He is in a tier 2. We don't have any tier 1 guys this week because we don't have any immediate known starters that are on the waiver wire, but Marquise Williams is definitely a name to consider right now with the way that Matt McGloin played, and just considering some of his remarks to his coach makes you wonder how that offseason or how that locker room conversation is going to go, how that chemistry is going to continue to work. If Matt McGloin gets himself pulled from another game, he might just stay on the bench. So if you have the potential to stash Marquise Williams on your bench, especially if you own Matt McGloin as your only quarterback, it might be a good idea to go ahead and do so right now. Taylor Cornelius as well. I'm assuming that Aaron Murray will end up getting to play this week. He didn't play this last week, but it was looking like he had a pretty decent chance at being able to do so, so I'm not sure how long he'll be out for. But if he is out, Taylor Cornelius had a few signs of hope on Saturday, definitely had some errant throws, but at this point, any quarterback that's worth starting in this league is worth rostering because there aren't that many. And then same thing for BJ Daniels, the backup to Brandon Silvers. Brandon Silvers looked absolutely terrible with the exception of that one throw to Keenan Reynolds. So if they are going to be making a quarterback shift in Seattle soon, you're going to want to be ahead of the game on that one. So all these guys are tier 2 guys that should probably be rostered, even though they're not necessarily starters in the immediate future. Okay, jumping over to running backs. Now, last week you saw a few tier 1 guys jump out. Unfortunately, this week, or maybe fortunately because it means no one really got hurt, we did not see any tier 1 guys jump out, but we do have quite a few tier 2 guys if you're looking for some upside and hope to your roster. We have Jacques Patrick there in Tampa Bay, basically taking over the backfield for most of the game over De'Veon Smith, which was really surprising. He looked really good out there. It was definitely still pretty close to a 50-50 split. This game was a bit more like 60-40, but the week before we saw a lot more of De'Veon Smith. So this is definitely going to be a two-headed backfield going forward, unless one of these guys either starts playing really bad or one of them gets hurt. So definitely not someone that you're going to be forcing into your lineup in every circumstance, but definitely the way that he played, you can't ignore it. He looked really good, and this team has had a lot of success running the ball, so definitely name to note. And then Donnel Pumphrey over in DC, basically the same story. Split carries pretty much evenly with Jarrell Presley. Looked a lot better this week. DC definitely has some injuries on their offensive line that are preventing their running game from being as good as it could be, but those offensive line injuries should hopefully not continue for the entire season. So look for this running game to continue to tick up. Donnel Pumphrey looked like he could handle this backfield if Jarrell Presley were to go down, or if he were just to win it outright. So a name you're going to want to stash on your bench. And then Nick Holley, again, based on your league format, might be classified as a receiver. If he's a receiver, he's definitely not as exciting, but if he's a running back, right now there's so few running backs that are putting up consistent fantasy production. So he's another tier 2 guy that you would consider adding to your bench until we see what continues to happen. If James Butler were to go down, I think Nick Holley would see a massive boost to his fantasy outlook, and he's worthy of a flex in deeper leagues right now. Okay, jumping down to tier 3, the only guy that we really identified as someone that you might want to continue to stash right now is Larry Rose. He only saw 4 touches on Sunday for the LA Wildcats, but when he touches the ball, he looks like he has the ability to break free on any given moment. He just hasn't really been given enough carries to actually have that moment happen yet. So with Elijah Hood fumbling the ball twice on Sunday, they might look to give Larry Rose a bit more work going forward. There's definitely a name to look at for deeper leagues, someone you throw on your bench and just see what happens. Okay, let's jump over to the wide receivers. A lot more interesting names here, and just want to preface this by saying there isn't really any stats out there on ownership across leagues. Obviously, a lot of people are using Alt Fantasy Sports, which is an open source league. A lot of people are doing leagues that they're managing themselves the old-fashioned way, so there's no way of knowing who is owned in the league. So I'm trying to base it off of the multiple leagues that I'm in, and just based on the consensus among analysts of where players are being drafted in terms of who I'm throwing onto this list. If you guys are curious how I have every player ranked, I'll be updating my trade tiers, which includes every notable player. You'll be able to see that on my website at fantasyaddictionnetwork.com, or click the link in the description. That way, if there's someone on your waiver wire that I don't name here, you can actually see where I have them ranked as my rest of season outlook. But again, we're just going to throw some names out there that I think will be on most waiver wires. Now, we have quite a few tier 1 guys this week, and none are more exciting and interesting than Deandre Thompkins for the DC Defenders. Now, coming back from an injury in this one, had 6 catches for nearly 100 yards, had a touchdown, almost had 2 on the day, looked really dominant out there, and with him playing with both Eli Rogers and Rashad Ross, there's really no way for opposing defenses to be able to shut all 3 of these guys down. Deandre Thompkins should continue to be a very, very good fantasy asset going forward. So I like him more than every other receiver on the waiver wire this week if he's there. Number 2 would be Keenan Reynolds, also tier 1 guy. Has had more than 6 targets 2 weeks in a row now, including 8 targets this last week, and had that nice 68-yard bomb. If I knew that Brandon Silvers was going to get better, I probably would actually place him as my number 1. My only trepidation and fear right now is that Silvers continues to decline rather than increase, because that's what we saw this last week. And once BJ Daniels takes over, I don't know who his favorite target is going to be. There's also the matter of there might be a wide receiver change once Keenan Williams ends up returning from injury. And then we also have SJ Green from the CFL that kind of weird right now. He signed, but we haven't even seen him on the team, so I don't know when he's planning on coming on. So there's just a lot of ambiguity around Seattle right now that keeps me a little bit more hesitant from just going all in on Keenan Reynolds, but at the same point, it's very hard to ignore what he's done, so make sure that you have him under your magnifying glass when you're looking for waivers this week. All right, Jordan Smallwood has continued to impress over there in LA. More than 6 targets each week is the wide receiver 2 there, outside of Nelson Spruce, and should continue to see respectful numbers, especially as Josh Johnson becomes more comfortable with this offense. And then this is a name that I'm just throwing out there. He's probably owned in most leagues, but LaDainian Washington for the St. Louis Battlehawks looked really good. Honestly, he looked really good in week 1, even though he didn't have the fantasy output for it. So definitely a name that I am making sure is on as many teams as I can. All right, jumping down to tier 2, we've got 2 guys here. Reece Horn for the Tampa Bay Vipers saw 5 targets this week, had a decent amount of targets in week 1, Overall, I still think Dan Williams is the head honcho over there in Tampa Bay, but as this team continues to figure out its offensive identity, eventually they'll get to the point that they're scoring more consistently, and I think Reece Horn will continue to see a decent amount of targets. Just a name to keep on your radar or on your bench, and if injuries happen, could definitely see an uptick in value. And then Alonzo Russell over there in St. Louis has been playing really well. I just think that he's going to end up playing second fiddle to DeMorning Pearson-El and LaDainian Washington as long as they're continue playing at the caliber that they are, but definitely a name that should be owned in pretty much every league. All right, looking at the tier 3 guys, we've got both guys from LA outside of Spruce and Smallwood. We're looking at Levante Whitfield and Adonis Jennings. Whitfield saw 4 targets on the week, also had a carry on the ground, and then Adonis Jennings saw 5. Neither of them had a really good fantasy day, but overall they're seeing a lot of targets in an offense that is continuing to grow and play better with each other. So if we're trying to predict who is going to be the next breakout on this team, it's going to be one of these guys. If you have a deep bench, might not be the worst idea to store one of these guys on your bench, especially with Trey McBride haven't even seen the field yet, and Saeed Blacknell dealing with an injury. These guys are getting their chance to develop some rapport and chemistry with Josh Johnson. Okay, jumping over to tight ends. Again, no tier 1 guys this week. Tight ends are very hard in this league right now. If you don't have a tight end that you like, you're probably going to have to trade for one. But Sean Price is there for our tier 2. If he's unowned, he's getting enough targets each week to definitely keep on your roster. Had 3 targets for 30 yards this week, a respectable number. And overall, is seeing, like I said, if you're seeing 3 or more targets, that's pretty good for a tight end at this point. So make sure if Sean Price is out there and you need a tight end, you should at least give him the benefit of putting him on your bench for now. All right, but that is it for my waiver wire show today, guys. If you want to see all these guys in a list form, again, you can check out the website at fantasyaddictionnetwork.com. We'll also be posting up rankings for the week here pretty soon. Trade advice, we'll be posting up a stats page pretty soon as well, giving you guys every piece of information that we can to give you an advantage in your fantasy league. So make sure you check that out. It's free, and we'll be updating it all season long. And then if you want more news and notes and fantasy information like this video right here, click that like and subscribe button. We'll be posting stuff throughout the season. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.